I suppose this is one of those leaky bucket experiences when you come and share with a very short notice. I was told yesterday, lunchtime, that you are needed as a substitute. So, I wish I could heard the lady. That would have been so much better, but let me share something with you that I feel is important in my life when it comes to discipleship. And I've just titled it, Just Do It. Very simple, just do it. I don't know if you come across with some excuses in your life. How many of you have started cleaning your office when you were supposed to call a church member or go out to share Christ? How many of you been started cleaning your office? I've done that many times and it feels good. I've got a tidy, organized office. How many of you have felt kind of a bad taste in your mouth or just felt a little bit unwell when you were about to leave for a mission activity? Right, I can see some honest hands. Okay, good. Some of you are still thinking, how honest can I be in this conference? All right, that's fine. About 40 years ago, and I'm young still, but 40 years ago I was 15 and I was about to go on canvassing to sell Adventist Health magazine and books and whatever, it was a whole package. And that was the way I earned my school fees for 10 years. Even my studies at Newbold, I could pay for my canvassing work. But every morning when I started going to work, it was maybe around 9, 10 o'clock, I had this bad taste that, oh my goodness, I don't really feel like starting the day. I don't really feel like knocking on the door and go and meet people. But after the first, second, third house, I got on fire. And by the end of the day, it was almost 9 o'clock and people were going to sleep and I was still knocking on people's doors because I was so excited and I was having so much fun meeting all of those people. But the next morning again, it was so difficult. And we asked the question, why is it that way? Sometimes we feel we are not welcome, or we are pushing something to people that people don't really want. And we think about discipleship in a similar way. Maybe we have been sharing Christ in such a way, or banging with the Bible, or using methodology that has felt us to feel uncomfortable many times because of the reaction we receive from people. And then it hinders us from taking the action. So what about if we changed our mentality, our attitude towards mission, towards discipleship, and suddenly we do things in a way that starts attracting people instead of banging them, but actually starts attracting us and starts giving us opportunities to work with them. So, I'm thinking about what could that be? There is a Bible text that I would love to share with you. Yeah, it's coming right there. In this Bible text it says, even though it's from the Message Bible, because it kind of gives that idea even better. So the next slide. Yeah, that's all right. Even though we had some standing as Christ apostles, we never threw our weight around or tried to come across as important with you or anyone else. We weren't standoffish with you. We took you just as you were. We were never patronizing, we never condescending, but we cared for you the way a mother cares for her children. We loved you dearly. Not content to just pass on the message, we wanted to give you our hearts. And we did. This text is my favorite text in the Bible. It talks about the attitude, about who am I, what am I supposed to do, and how am I supposed to reach my colleagues, my friends, my church members. So the question is, what is discipleship? And there are many definitions for discipleship, and this is just one way of saying it. One way of saying is, it's about hearing God's voice and do it. Just do it. Very simple like that. And honestly, if we had people who listen to God and talk to God and say, talk to me today. Where do you want me to be? Who do you want me to meet? And then God talks to you or sends you people and you just do it. You take the leap of action. Even though you're afraid sometimes, you still say, okay, because God has given me this opportunity, I'll just do it. For me, discipleship is about integration. First of all, in the heart level. And when you have experienced in the heart level with your colleagues or friends or with your new friends, it's an opportunity to invite a person into the home level. And after you are in the home level, and then it's an opportunity to think, okay, am I able to invite that person into my team, into the small group? And only after you have reached that person's heart, invited that person to your home, invited that person to a growth experience, there may be an opportunity for the person to come to church and experience church. Of course, there's different ways of doing this, but I'm just giving one way of thinking about it. So what could that hard experience be? First of all, it's about friendship. It's about taking the action of getting to know somebody. And I remember this was way back, about 30 years ago, when I was planting a church, a cafe church in downtown Helsinki. And we had been meeting with the core team for about a year now, planning and working and getting strategic and all of that. And then our coach, Peter, some of you know Peter Roenfeld. Peter came in and he asked us from our team, core team, said, how are you doing with your friends? And we said, okay, what friends, And we realized that we don't really have a lot of friends outside the church. We have a lot of friends in the church, but not outside the church. So it was a very good question to ask. And I learned that as pastors, we need to start asking really difficult questions from each other. Are we actually doing the things that we're supposed to be doing? Are we actually asking the right question from our colleagues? Am I doing the right things? And asking the questions, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And first, I was trying to do everything. And I was one of those pastors, very energetic and get everybody on fire and get excited about doing things. And I was doing it all. And in the end, I looked at the results. And very often, the results it was okay. But it was just as long as I had the energy of doing something, something would happen. And I felt that this is not leading anywhere. I'm just emptying my bucket. And I feel that it's leaking all the time. And the more I put into it, it's just not going to work. So I started thinking, well, maybe there is another purpose for me. And I was invited to some coaching training and thinking differently. And some of those training didn't change me. One training did change me. And I started working differently. And I realized that my role as a pastor is not so much about doing the things by myself and getting things done, but that's about raising new leaders. It's about finding those leaders and investing my time on them and making sure that those leaders succeed, these new young leaders succeed. and I'll take a step back. And honestly, I haven't had so much peace as I have nowadays in the ministry that I'm doing. And I'm loving it. For many of us, a team is something where you are able to have that hard experience. For me personally, I didn't have much of an internship. I saw the first pastor a couple of times and the second pastor a couple of times. And I said, don't bother, stay wherever you are, do whatever you like. I invited all the pastors in Helsinki area, come together. I need a team, and you're my team. And we need to meet every week. And we have met ever since in Helsinki area. By the way, I'm one of those weird pastors who never moved from an area. I've been there for 28 years now in Helsinki area. I've been doing some other things as well in between, but I'm still living kind of in the area. I'm not saying this is a good example. Please, leaders. No. But I built my team, and that team started training me. My colleagues started sharing their life with me, and I started learning what it is to be a pastor, what it is to be a coach, and in the end, leading others for Christ and leading others doing the things that is needed to be done. And that was my place of accountability as well. That was the place where I learned what it is to be a person with Christ. That is where I learned to pray. That is where I learned to worship with my colleagues. Jesus had the closed the three disciples that invited. He wanted to say, come with me. Stay close to me. Stay awake when I'm praying. So that's where I learned about the kingdom values, about how to live my life as a Christ-centered person. What about the home experience? When you had with a person a hard experience, when you've befriended with a friend, it's an opportunity to invite that person into your home or into your close, intimate environment where you can actually start sharing life with that person. It could be someone else's home, it could be your own home, it could be any other place, but it's about hospitality. It's about not taking the person to the pulpit, but it's about actually being somewhere in a cafe or somewhere natural place where you can meet with people. But for me, discipleship starts at home. It starts with my relationship with my wife, with my family. Honestly, my wife is not hearing me right now, and some of you are not listening, but these last couple of months and a year has been the best time in the life of my wife and I. We have been praying like we never prayed before. We have been reading the Bible like we never read before. We've been loving each other the way we have never loved before. And living a life like that is discipleship at home. And suddenly we start feeling that it's less of us, it's more of listening to God's voice and what God has plans for us. We put a house on sale and we said, okay, we want to get rid of things. We just want to say to God, what's your plan? We just don't want to be hooked with things. We just want to be ready to listen to where and when, how you want to lead us. Take us all. And it's a wonderful experience to go through that. It's about readiness to follow God's voice and call. And it's not about me, this work. It's not about my job. It's actually more about my wives nowadays. I'm actually listening to what's God calling you to do. I know I can do ministry anywhere. What's God's calling you to do? And that's fun. And then it's about the teams. It's about finding that small group where you can invite people. It's about you're able to tell your story. It's about gospel in a small circle. It's about having a dialogue. It's about inviting people, encouraging them, trusting each other. It's about making mistakes, keeping people's back. That's my job. Sending them out mentor them, taking time with them. And then the last point is rethink your role as a pastor, evangelist, teacher, shepherd. Inviting people to church. Learn how to lead yourself and others and become a coaching pastor. It's about unlearning some of the things what I've done as a pastor and give it some time and be gracious to myself. If you can't change yourself, don't worry. Help others to change. Trust the new generation and let them decide how they will reach each other. They don't like to be performers in the church. They need to own the vision of the church together. Invite people to the church where people can think for themselves. It's about rethinking my work through the coaching process. From programs to process, from lectures to coaching. From us at the center to local leaders at the center, from our responsibility to their ownership, from our idea to finding their needs. This have changed my life. And what I'm doing as a coach right at the moment is to help to create a new working culture in a church, where the pastors become free from performing. The pressure is not on me, but it's actually on the team, it's on the church together. But I'm there to unleash that potentiality. The members are free to take responsibility when there is less control. There's enthusiasm, there's positive thinking because there are no mistakes. They're only learning experiences. And differences are appreciated. And we create together a discipleship process. I don't make the plans, they make the plans. To clarify the mission and to identify identity of the church, we talked about that. And help the church to coach to work with their questions. Unfortunately, we have a trauma. And I started with that excuses which we have. We don't believe in discipleship, honestly, if we are facing this fact. If I asked many of you, most of you said, I have never really been discipled. Nobody really taught me hands-on how to do this thing. And the young people tell me nowadays, they say to me, don't talk about that trauma, that it can't be done. They say to me, I've seen it happen, I've seen people giving their lives to Jesus, and you talk about that, it can't be done, it's not possible, it's really difficult. So the young people say to me that don't pass on that trauma of discipling to the next generation by talking about how difficult it is to disciple. Our kids do what they see, we need to lead by example. So what I'm saying is that when I hear stories like Papua New Guinea, when I hear stories about Europe for Christ, when I think about what happens in the world, but it's not happening in Europe, and then I hear stories, my friends in other churches, denominations, they say this Go movement, okay, let's have a decade of 2033, where we have reached 1 billion people for Christ. And we're thinking bigger. We start asking these questions, is it really possible or is it actually impossible? What can I do? And I'm just going to leave you with these 4 things. Pray. Fill me with the Holy Spirit and use me today. Imagine if all of us here prayed that every day. What would happen? It happened last night. Some of the young people, they were preaching at the hotel. They were sharing Christ for 1 hour last night at our hotel there, for one of the people at the hotel. They had a very good time. Then the second point is discover it. Find the presence of God. Open your eyes. The harvest is plentiful. Let's do it. Find a friend. Walk with a friend. And lead a person to Jesus. Get going. And the last thing is to celebrate it. The blessing and gifts God gives you. If you know how to eat, you can make disciples. There's a book about it. Read it. Encourage, love, and bless each other. It works. Just do it.